That would definitely be most of it.
Voting?
Yeah.
I'm going home, it's even worse. There's not a,
Yes.
I need to be on the 2:30.
I am good. How are you?
I am living green.
Well, look at it. Yeah, I love the light blue. It's like you're like the Easter. You're carrying the Easter.
Yes.
Forward.
My girlfriend's getting
Get
confirmed
three.
as the director of TIR, so I'm gonna swap.
Where they're used
Oh,
to.
in
So-
Vegas.
You look
Yeah.
fabulous.
Oh, well, thanks.
Another drive.
Let's go ahead and kick this off.
Right in and out of LA.
Ontario.
Ontario.
We have that's in Nova Works. I just don't know if that's their
Is that-
baseline screen or what's going on there.
This is
Yeah.
our first meeting. in
What's
LA.
the middle one? I can't read it from here. Is that LA?
South Bay
South
Web
Bay.
is
Yeah.
Los Angeles, then we have Nova Works, which is fourth. There we go.
That doesn't.
They're getting set up.
Great.
So.
Do you need a moment?
Because, well, crews are always.
Right, why'd you come up here? So you could have done it in LA.
Pick a seat when I got.
Can you hear us from Sacramento?
It's not cheaper than flying Delta. I'd rather have a plug for my.
I'm just doing a sound check. Are we heard in LA? Are we heard in the Bay Area?
Yes, yes, but no one has shown up yet for
Okay.
here in the Bay Area.
That's
Okay.
fine. That's fine.
Here.
All
It's
righty.
a giant room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Giant.
Okay, cool. Well,
Hate this room so much.
This room.
I hate this.
System.
I know.
just a brief housekeeping right at the top. This room does have a very sensitive set of microphones. So I would highly encourage those who need to have private conversations to step out of the room when that happens. Maybe
Like
pick
telling
up
me
on
to
the
shut up.
live stream.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure you all know that. No.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah. And just to get it out there, everyone hates this room, so we'll just say it up front.
We're trying. It's
Yeah.
new. Okay, and with that, I will ask the board chair to call us to order.
Welcome, everyone. This is call to order. We're starting this meeting at 10:05 a.m. And Ben, if you could collect the roll call, please.
Absolutely. Area. The South Bay Wib hear me?
No.
It's hard to hear.
All right, come to the table.
No.
Just a moment.
There goes that sense.
You all look good, though.
We can hear everybody else.
All right, let's try this again.
How about now?
Yep. Yes.
When I call your name, please let me know that you're here and also let me know your location where you're recording. And we will begin with Senator Ana Caballero. Alicia Bell.
Present, Sacramento.
Over here on behalf of Chancellor Christian in Sacramento.
Assemblymember Damon Connolly. Jamil Dada. Kamyar Amiri Devani.
Present South Bay.
What was that?
Present, South.
Okay, I thought I heard Sacramento. Diane Factor. Nancy Farias.
Present Sacramento.
Angelo.
President Sacramento.
Dean Falk. Larry Frank.
President South Bay.
Leonard Gonzalez.
He'll be here shortly, he's in traffic.
Jason Hayter.
Present South Bay.
Jennifer Haley. Allah Hijazi.
Present Sacramento.
Secretary Kim Johnson. Secretary Stuart Knox.
Devin Matowitz for Stuart Knox.
Hillary Lentini.
Present South Bay.
James Tangia. Magda Mendez.
Sacramento.
Stephen Monteros.
Present Sacramento.
Janice Norman.
Outside right
Yeah,
now.
I saw him inside.
Bob Redlow. Joanna Reese.
Present, Sacramento.
Nicole Rice. Mayor Rex Richardson.
Here.
I didn't know who I need to talk to.
Charles Riojas,
Good thing I'm right here.
No kidding.
Director Kimberly Rutledge,
Victor Duran for Kim Rutledge.
Angel Sanchez,
Here, President Sacramento.
Fabricio Sasso,
Here, Sacramento.
Assembly Member Pilar Chiavo, Aveen Sharma,
Here, South Bay.
Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas, Jeremy Smith, Annette Smith, Bruce Stensley, Superintendent Tony Thurmond,
Mindy Parsons here for Superintendent Thurman, Sacramento.
Floyd Trammell, Amelia Tiagi, and Gloria Young.
We have Gloria Young, who has now arrived in the Bay Area.
And that gives us quorum.
Yay, Gloria.
Made it 2.5 hours from San Francisco, so.
Fantastic.
Gloria, you saved the day.
Fantastic.
We did have, Connie and I talked about this. We have a number of people who are on break this week because we fell the week right after Easter. So one thing we talked about was being a little more thoughtful about the calendar for next year to make sure that, because I got a lot of apology emails from people saying, love to be there, but on break.
So we will definitely take more concerted effort to make these dates work for as many of you as possible.
Just to walk through the process, do you want me to do it? You want to?
I'm happy to if you want.
Go ahead.
Great. So Ben has indicated that we have made a quorum, so I'll go over the meeting process. This meeting is being conducted via teleconference on the Zoom platform. It is also being recorded. The California Workforce Development Board is meeting here in Sacramento at a satellite location in Sunnyvale and one in Hawthorne. Thank you very much to our satellite offices for hosting. A link to the meeting agenda and board packet information can be found on the CWDB webpage at cwdb.ca.gov under our board meeting schedule. Public comment is now open and will be heard after each agenda item and again prior to adjournment. Public comments will be accepted via email at boardpubliccomment@cwdb.ca.gov or by being recognized by the chair. We can allow just 2 minutes for each comment per subject, so please make them concise. Public comments received by email may be read aloud during the public comment periods noted on the agenda and will be included in the meeting minutes as part of the public record. We will now be moving to the action items portions. Thankfully, we have a quorum, so we'll be able to vote on these specific items. For our first item. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll start that.
Yes, you can do this part.
Aren't we a good tag team? I'd love just to recognize two new people who are here in person. The first being Mayor Rex Richardson from Long Beach. And you could just take a moment or two and introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, happy to be here. The flight from Long Beach to Sacramento is an easy one, 45 minutes from two of the best airports in California. Happy to join the team. Long Beach is a labor town. We're home to the Port of Long Beach, the fastest growing and cleanest port in America. We moved about 9.9 million 20-foot equivalent units last year. And we're on track to get to double that by 2050. It's the 20 by 50 goal. So, everything from longshoremen to truckers to warehouse workers, that's our economy. We also have a deep, rich history in manufacturing that's now seeing a lot of excitement with advanced manufacturing as we're the fastest growing space and aerospace cluster. We call it Space Beach. About 40 companies. One of them, most recently, Anduril announced 5,500 jobs. So we have about 10,000 jobs to fill between now and 2030. A good problem to have. And these jobs are, don't necessarily require a degree. A welder can go to Long Beach City College and make $60 an hour building space stations and rockets in Long Beach. And so we certainly want to see more of that take place in Long Beach and across the state of California. Happy to be a part of this.
Super happy to have you here. Great to meet you in person. The other is Magda Menendez, who is a member of the Latino Advisory Board. And Magda, if you could introduce yourself.
Good morning again, Magda Menendez. I'm trying to retire from the Mexican American Opportunity Foundation. But it's not working. It's been 2 years. It's the part-time stuff now. But I spent the last 45 years of my life in workforce development. And I've worked with probably every target population you could imagine. It's been a very fulfilling life because I get to do what I wanted to do since I was 13 years old, and be able to put my kids in school and feed them and that type of stuff, right? But workforce development, I think, is you have a different perspective when you're on the front lines of it, right? And so I'm just thrilled to be here to get another view and hopefully be able to make some contributions, right? In terms of, and base that, on the experience that I've had. And the most special part of my life right now is my 6 grandkids. One of which was deployed last Saturday, so I don't know yet where he's at, and it's a little nerve-wracking. But very happy to be here, and hopefully again, I can make some positive contributions to this.
Welcome. We're happy to have you here. Brenna.
Thank you for making sure that we met the obligations that we have. So now I'll go on to the action items portion of the meeting, and for our first item, we will be voting to approve the October 8th, 2025 full board meeting summary, which has been included in your meeting packet. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this item? Hearing from this room or any of the teleconference locations? Hearing none. Emily, are there any public comments on this item?
No public comment.
Great. I'd like to ask Joanna to move to approve these.
Can I move to approve the minutes and ask for a second?
Second, Angela.
Thank you, Angela. Then we'll go around and tally the vote.
Absolutely, and we will start with Alicia Bell,
Yay.
Sonia Christian.
Aye. Change your voice.
Kamiya Ramini Devani.
Abstain.
Nancy Farias.
Abstain.
Angelo.
Aye.
Larry Frank.
Yes.
Jason Hayter.
Yes.
Paula Hijazi.
Aye.
Secretary Stuart Knox.
Yes.
Hillary Lentini.
Aye.
Magna Menendez.
Aye.
Stephen Monteros.
Approve.
Janice Norman.
Aye.
Joanna Reese.
Approve.
Mayor Rex Richardson.
Yes.
Director Kimberly Rutledge.
Abstain.
Angel Sanchez.
Same.
Fabricio Sasso.
Yes.
Naveen Sharma.
Yes.
Superintendent Tony Thurman.
Abstain.
And Gloria Young.
Yes.
16 yeas. 5 nays. Pass.
Great. Thank you, Ben.
For our second item, we will be voting to approve amendments to the CWDB bylaws. They've also been included and summarized in the meeting packet. I would like to ask Brooke Barnum Roberts to come forward and address and briefly speak on the proposed amendments. And then we will go to questions from the floor. Brooke?
Good morning, Chair, Executive Director, and members of the board and the public. My name is Brooke Barnum Roberts, and I am Chief Counsel for the CWDB. In your board packet, you'll see the proposed bylaws amendments. They're both clean and in red line, and I included a memo that summarizes the proposed amendments. We believe that these amendments enhance clarity, transparency, and operational flexibility while maintaining compliance with state and federal law. We will assume you've reviewed these changes, but if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them prior to a vote. Any questions or feedback on these proposed amendments?
Yeah, one question or clarification. I can't hardly read my writing, but I think it says in section 8, around removal, it states that essentially the removal process taking place after missing 3 meetings. Is there clarification on, is that talking about these meetings, ad hoc meetings, committee meetings, or is
Full
it
board meetings.
full board meetings? Okay.
Yeah, Brooke, it might be helpful if you just, at a very high level, just state what the amendments are, just so everyone's clear.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I can do that. Let me address Angel Sanchez's question first. It's 3 full board meetings and that just provides good cause for removal.
Okay.
You know, historically, that hasn't triggered removal. So it's more that we like to see board members participate, you know, be part of the sport.
Absolutely. I wasn't sure about for myself, but I just want to make sure that's clear.
You're actually highlighting yourself.
Be
Appreciate
careful on
your
that.
feedback. So at a high level, what these amendments do are both include explicitly the ad hoc committee as a temporary committee that is task oriented and time limited and is not subject to the same requirements the full board is subject to. That's why we're able to meet on Zoom primarily for those.
But we do encourage participation in those.
Yes.
Absolutely, and they've been wonderful. I'm sure the board members will speak to that later, but yeah, we do encourage participation and they've been worthwhile, I believe. The other changes are ensuring that we're able to state that board members have no conflict of interest by participating on the board, because you don't make decisions regarding grant funding, for example. Otherwise, many of our members might be conflicted out. And so that was a change that was prompted by concern that that's not stated explicitly, even though that's how we operate. And then some clear amendments for clarity. There were a couple typos. We added expectations for members that we expect members to come prepared and attend meetings regularly. That just emphasizes preparation and attendance, because we do have important work to do and action items today that if they got put off would affect our compliance with respect to like WIOA, for example. Let me see. We updated meeting frequency language from 3 to 4 times per year to multiple times per year. That way we have greater scheduling flexibility if we need to have more or less of those in future years. And that's about it. We do ask board members to inform the executive director and chair of any change in employer or employment status within 30 days. And the reason for that is because our board members represent this sort of, you know, beautiful specific recipe of employers, government, and labor. And so if that recipe sort of changes, our compliance with those requirements. So any questions or thoughts hearing a bit more about the proposed amendments?
Any questions from those on Zoom? No. Laura, you're so front and center with us. It's great.
Great.
Any public comments?
No public comment.
Thank you for keeping us on train.
I move that we approve the amendments to the CWDB bylaws and ask for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ben?
Absolutely. We will start with Alicia Bell.
Hi.
Anthony Cordova.
Aye.
Kamiar.
Aye.
Nancy Farias.
Hi.
Angelo.
Aye.
Larry Frank.
I'm going with the flow. Aye.
Jason Hayter.
Aye.
Hala Hijazi.
Aye.
And Secretary Stuart Knox. Aye. Hillary Lentini.
Aye.
Magda Menendez. Aye. Stephen Monteros.
Aye.
Janice Norman.
Aye.
Joanna Reese.
Hi.
Mayor Rex Richardson.
Yes.
Victor Duran.
Abstain.
Andrew Santos.
Yes.
Luis Rivera.
Yes.
Aveen.
Aye.
Superintendent Tony Thurmond
Aye.
and Gloria Young.
Aye.
Pass.
Thank you, Ben. For our following agenda items, we will be voting to approve the WIO regional and local plans and the local area subsequent designation and local board recertification. We will be taking two votes, but the items will be introduced and summarized together. Ashley Anglesey, Branch Manager for Legislation, State Plan and Policy, will briefly speak about these items.
As outlined under Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Section 106, regional workforce development plans provide a roadmap for the alignment of resources and investments to meet specific outcomes within the 15 regional planning units. Regional plans are used to articulate how regional planning units will build intentionality around industry sector engagement, drive workforce development outcomes across multiple jurisdictions, and expand on-ramps to career pathways for individuals who experience barriers to employment. Additionally, as outlined in WIOA Section 108, local workforce development plans provide an action plan for operationalizing the regional plan by delineating how individuals can access services through their local America's Job Centers for California, or AJCC system. Local plans articulate how local workforce development boards will coordinate with local partners to ensure person-centered service delivery. In addition to the federal planning requirements, WIOA indicates that regional and local plans should be consistent with the state plan's vision and goals. For purposes of developing cohesive narratives for both the regional and local plans, the CWDB published Workforce Services Directive 24-09, published on December 20th, 2024, which provided guidance to the field on both federal and state requirements for regional and local plans. The intent of this guidance was to assist in developing a seamless blueprint for the operationalization and implementation of all the required regional and local plan content. The majority of regional local plans effective from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028 received formal board approval in October of 2025. The regional local plans listed below, or that I will tell you, have been evaluated and met the requirements as indicated and are now put in front of the board of directors for final approval. And those two are the LA Basin Regional Plan and the Alameda Local Plan.
You, Ashley? That was a lot.
Oh, sorry, I have one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does have one. Oh, that's right. She does have
Oh,
one.
just a breather. This is subsequent designation and recertification. WIOA sections 106 and 107 provide criteria for subsequent designation of local workforce development areas and recertification of local boards. Specifically, WIOA section 106 requires the governor to designate local areas within the state, and WIOA section 107 requires the governor to certify one local board for each local area. According to WIOA section 106, a local area must have performed successfully, sustained fiscal integrity, and engaged in the regional planning process in order to receive subsequent designation. According to WIOA section 107, a local board must have performed successfully, sustained fiscal integrity, and met membership requirements in order to receive recertification. The CWDB and the Employment Development Department published Workforce Services Directive 24-10 dated January 16th, 2025, which contains the required criteria, definitions, and an application to request subsequent designation as a local area and recertification as a local board. There are 5 criteria that local boards must meet in order to be recertified. Local board membership, performed successfully, sustained fiscal integrity, engaged in regional planning, and local area assurances. The majority of subsequent designation and recertifications effective from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2027 received formal board approval in October of 2025. The subsequent designation and recertification applications below have been evaluated and met the requirements as identified and are now put in front of the board of directors for final approval, and that is for Long Beach and Celico. I'm done.
Thank you, Ashley. Sure you guys all followed that very well, and they're all included in your board packet. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask, are there any questions or comments about the WIO regional and local plans?
Move approval.
And then are there any questions or comments about the local area subsequent designation? Hearing none. Are there any public comments on these items? Plural. No in-person or online comments. Great. Now,
Do we have to approve them separately? Ben,
Yeah.
that's a question to you. Yes. Okay, just making sure. So I move to approve the WIOA regional and local plans, asking for a second.
Second.
Multiple seconds. We'll say Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
Second. And Ben, can you collect the vote on that?
Absolutely. We will start with Alicia
Aye.
and Tony.
Aye.
Kamyar,
Aye.
Nancy Ferris,
Aye.
Angelo,
Aye.
Larry Frank,
Aye.
Jason Hayter,
Aye.
Paula Hijazi,
Aye.
Stuart Knox,
Aye.
Hillary Lentini,
Aye.
Magda Menendez,
Aye.
Stephen Monteros,
Aye.
Janice Norman,
Aye.
Joanna Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Rex Richardson,
Aye.
Victor Duran.
Aye.
Angel Sanchez,
Angel, aye.
Fabricio,
Aye.
Aveen,
Aye.
Mindy,
Aye.
and Gloria,
Aye.
consensus.
great. Thank you so
Great.
much.
Now I move to approve the local area subsequent designation and local board recertification and ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you. Ben?
Alicia,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Kamyar,
Aye.
Nancy Ferris,
Aye.
Angelo,
Aye.
Larry Frank,
Aye.
Yep.
Jason Hayter,
Aye.
Paula,
Aye.
Secretary Stuart Knox,
Aye.
Hillary Lentini,
Aye.
Magda Menendez, Stephen Monteros,
Aye.
Janice,
Aye.
Joanna Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Rex Richardson,
Aye.
Victor Duran.
Aye.
Angel Sanchez.
Aye.
Fabricio.
Aye.
Aveen.
Aye.
Mindy. And Gloria.
Aye.
Unanimous, and I will give it to you all again.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our action items. So we're going to move to our briefing and discussion items. I'm super pleased that we have a special guest here today, Jason Wong from an organization called Free World. I actually met Jason through one of your board members who I've served on a long-term nonprofit board with called Endeavor.org, where we support high impact entrepreneurs in what we call elsewhere, which means outside of California. Jason came to me and said, I'm really excited about this organization that's really helping people get back into the workforce. I'll explain a little more of that. And also was Matt Machari, one of the founders.
That's right.
So believe it or not, Matt he's actually a CEO coach. He coaches like the leaders of companies like OpenAI and others. But I was his babysitter. Back in New Jersey, back in the day. So just bring that up. But what the organization that Jason's leading it's a pioneering nonprofit called Free World. They lift people who have been in prison into successful careers, and they give them the stabilizing support systems to experience healthy families and fulfilling work. And I was really inspired by what they were doing and thought there was lots of application for different pockets, Mayor Richardson, based on your also intro. I think there's some real opportunity in your community. So Jason, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, thank you so much, Joanna, for such a warm and generous introduction. Good morning, everybody. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be here with you all today. As Joanna said, I'm Jason. I'm the founder and CEO of Free World. Free World is a tech nonprofit that trains and places people with criminal records into living. Today, we're primarily in the trucking industry, but in the future, we'll expand to other careers. Next slide. So the inspiration to start Free World really started from my own personal experiences going through the criminal justice system. And like many of the people that we serve, I grew up in a challenging childhood environment dominated by poverty, trauma, and abuse. As a young kid, my father used to always tell me that I would never amount to anything and that I was good for nothing. When he got really, really angry, he used to chase me around the kitchen with a butcher knife trying to kill me. And by the age of 11, feeling so alone and was thrown away by the world, I chose to join a gang because they represented the family that I didn't have at home. That led me to making some really terrible decisions. I committed a first-degree felony aggravated robbery at the age of 15 and was sent to a maximum security Texas prison on a 12-year sentence. Now, luckily, I was able to do a lot of criminal justice reform work while I was incarcerated. And as a result, I was released early. I earned a full scholarship and 2 master's degrees, but even with 2 master's degrees, companies wouldn't hire me due to my criminal record. It was heartbreaking. I thought that I had served my time, paid my debt to society, but most importantly, I promised my mom that I wasn't going to become a statistic. And here I felt as if society only saw me for the worst thing that I had ever done. It felt as if I'd be wearing invisible handcuffs for the rest of my life. Next slide. And as I start to learn more about the criminal justice system, I start to realize that this, unfortunately, was not a unique experience for me. This was a systemic issue faced by millions of Americans. And so before going to the slide, I just want to preface that California, over the past 10 years, have made incredible strides when it comes to criminal justice reform. But I believe that 2 things can be true at the same time. That we've made incredible progress, and at the same time, there's still so much more work to be done. And so just to give everybody a landscape here in California, about 8 million people have a criminal record. That's about 1 in 5 people. When people get released from incarceration, if they are able to find employment, they're making less than $10,000. And our recidivism rate here is 39%. What that does is it creates a constant start-stop motion that makes it incredibly challenging to gain stable footing, which traps people into generational cycles of poverty. And so that cycle continues. And so our solution, it seems simple on its surface, but we break the cycle through personal accountability, wraparound supports, and equitable access to living wage careers. Next slide. So Free World's an end-to-end career platform. When somebody applies to Free World, we're with them every step of the way. Anything from intake to case management, benefits access, training, job placement, and long-term retention, we house all of this in one system. And we didn't build it in a vacuum. We worked with employers who told us what they actually needed in a hire. Justice impacted individuals who told us where the system was failing them. Educational institutions who showed us how training delivery needed to work. And workforce systems like yours who showed us how to connect to the infrastructure that already exists. Next slide. So Free World is an entirely mobile-first experience. And behind the technology, every participant is supported by team members who have been through the system themselves. About 1/3 of our company is made up of people who have been previously impacted. We pair AI tools with people who actually understand what it's like to come home from prison. And that combination, technology plus lived experience, is how we reach people at scale without losing the human touch. Next slide. So Free World's a bit of a data nerd. We don't just put people into jobs and hope for the best. We track every participant for 3 years. Everything from training completion to employment, retention, and wages, all verified through IRS tax transcripts, background checks, not just self-reporting. And so I know that the screen's a little bit small here, but what you're seeing here is every single one of these lines is an actual human being. And here we have a person in California who's 54 years old, who graduated our program, who was making $7,000 before they joined our program. And after, they're now making $54,000. That's not just a temporary bump, that's a permanent shift in economic trajectory for themselves and for their families. Next slide. And the results, legitimate second chances. We have an 87% training completion rate. 81% of our graduates attain employment within 6 months of graduation. 92% stay in industry for 12 months after graduation. Our average first year incomes are $72,000. When you first join the trucking industry, you may not be making much at first, but as you start to gain experience, you start to make more. And if you're traveling over the road, you can make $75,000 within your first year. If you're working at the ports, you can make over $100,000. If you're transporting tomatoes, you can make $10,000 to $12,000 a month. We have a less than 5% recidivism rate. And in 2025, our graduates collectively earned more than $100 million in wage earnings. Next slide. Next slide. But we didn't do this on our own. It's because of amazing employers like Cisco Foods. And one of the hiring managers said that our partnership with Free World is a win-win-win. Free World helps employers get skilled candidates. Graduates get a chance at a lifelong career, and society is all the better for it. Next slide. And it's also because of amazing workforce partners like Jorge Marquez over at Goodwill, Southern California. Jorge is the chairman of the LA County Workforce Development Board. He's also the chief impact officer over at Goodwill, Southern California. We've been working with them for over a year. And Jorge says that Free World is the most proactive, supportive partner we have worked with. They are the first and only transportation logistics partners we have brought into our ecosystem. We're working with them to scale our partnership with them to more participants, but our product engineering teams are also contributing to help them build a first of its kind virtual American Job Center, making their services more accessible region-wide. And this is ahead of a huge workforce moment. LA is about to have the FIFA World Cup, Super Bowl, Olympics, and they also are home to two of the largest ports on the Western Hemisphere. One of them being Long Beach. Next slide.
LA board.
Yeah, there you go. Next slide. So we partnered with Bridgestand to conduct an independent analysis of our program's social return on investment. And what that analysis showed is that for every dollar invested into Free World, it creates $8 back to the state. That's coming from increased tax payments, reduced incarceration costs, lower SNAP and Medicare expenditures, and in addition, for every dollar invested in Free World, it creates $23 of impact for each of our graduates. Next slide. Graduates like Rihanna. Rihanna spent 3 years in prison. And after her release, she was working odd jobs, struggling to pay the bills. She joined our program, and within 2 months, she got a job paying $67,000 per year. She said that she cried when she found out that she was going to trucking school. And she continues to be a mentor for other students going through our program. Slide. So here's a slide on recommendations, but you don't need any from me. You guys have already got this figured out. But while I'm here, I thought that I'd offer a couple of thoughts. First is we are grateful and humbled that you continue to invest in our population and in this work. And we encourage you to continue to hold expectations high, to look for programs that center lived experience, because when you really understand the challenges that their clients are going through, it helps you deliver services in a much more intentional manner. I also would recommend that you look for organizations that are really starting to modernize and use technology as a core way to deliver services. Today with AI, the barrier of entry to create a minimum viable product is lower than ever. And traditionally in our space, technology has not been the core of our work. And so I truly recommend that we're looking for organizations and influencing them to invest in this new technology. We're also excited about your ETPL modernization, your AI advisory group. We're big when it comes to automation, especially the modernization of state systems, and our product engineering teams would be very excited to be thought partners with you all. Next slide. Together, I hope that we can create 10,000 more stories just like Rihanna. And so if you'd like to get in touch, here's a QR code that opens up your mail app and sends an email directly to me. But if you'd like to use a legacy way, I have also put my email up there as well. But thank you all for this opportunity to present to you all. It is truly a humbling experience, and I look forward to the impact that we'll have together. Thank you.
You, Jason. Questions or comments for Jason? Yes.
Jason, a lot of our work is really, how to say, public works. What are the regulations required around this? Because we are required to do background checks, and they do pay prevailing wage. So it is a living wage. What regulations are there out there that would help us employ them? Or maybe we're just because we have to do background checks, we assume anything out there probably makes it a non-starter for them to be in the field.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. One of the reasons why we focus on the trucking industry is because there is a massive labor shortage. And, current federal guidance on immigration has actually driven a huge portion of the population to leave the trucking field. And so as an example, immigrants make up about 18% of the total driver pool. And new regulations have caused non-domiciled truck drivers to actually leave the industry. And so that labor shortage is actually increasingly becoming larger. And as a result of having such a huge labor shortage, trucking companies are generally more open to hiring those criminal records. Not all trucking companies, of course. Some have varying levels of requirements, but we have found that we've been able to scale our program and still get very high employment rates by working with a range of different employment partners.
On the state side, no state once again, since we do have to do background checks, and I mentioned this because a friend of mine does this very similar thing on the East Coast with Cisco Systems on the technology side, and it's been successful. But like I said, here in California, because I have to put people out on school sites, when I have to do the background checks, they're very, very strict.
Yeah, so there are going to be some routes like that where it will be more challenging for somebody with a criminal record to be able to work in that type of employment. But other things like over the road or transporting agriculture, as an example, those tend to be lower barrier of entry positions.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Just some thoughts. I love the platform. I certainly can see its use case, even as you expand out of the justice involved community. Trucking is a low barrier to access career where a lot of folks who, seniors on a fixed income who are looking to make some money, they look to trucking because physically it's not too hard on you. But I'll tell you, the most difficult part is it's hard to insure a new driver. And you need to have about 2 years of experience before the companies will even take a risk on you. So when you become a driver, you're placed in these over-the-road companies where they just wear you out, and it's survival of the fittest. So I think what's great about this is the wraparound support and tracking and making sure that these folks actually make it through that difficult first year. Because once they do, then the opportunities open up. They all want to ride local. They have to do 1 or 2 years over the road before they can do local. Ideally, they want to get into those port jobs. What's good about this also is because of the technology that's now being deployed on trucks, electronic logging devices, and GPS systems, the risk for fraud is very low, right? Like drivers don't touch the cargo, the payload. They pull up, they back up, an entirely different crew loads it, and they know exactly where you are at every point. So it's consistent work, it's an opportunity, and the risk is very low for this population. The other thing I'll say is, the demand's certainly there. And it's difficult it's difficult because we train a lot of folks that go get their Class A license, but there's that gap. Right? The third tier on your proposal, that your third spot of placement is incredibly important. The fact that you've built those relationships and you can place folks in a consistent job, I think is a really good thing. So I certainly support this any way I can be helpful. I think we we should certainly expose you to the port community a bit more if they see this opportunity. And I guess my question for you would be, how do you handle some of the labor challenges, independent drivers versus company drivers and all of that? Have you encountered any of that?
Yeah,
How are you handling that?
Yes. Well, when you say like, how do we handle independent?
Yeah, some companies treat drivers as independent contractors, and some treat them as employees, right? I mean, I know where I fall on that, but how are you navigating that with your workforce?
Yeah, really great question. One of the things that we do is we really look for quality employers. And we kind of follow the ABCs of any type of career. So like first is a job, the second is a better job, and the third one is a career. And so, the first thing is let's make sure that our graduates are getting into positions where they can get the experience that you're talking about. And then once we establish that experience, we're trying to get them into the Cisco Foods, the Walmarts of the world, where Walmart pays $120,000 per year for a driver. And so building those relationships with employers are really important. I brought my partner here with me. This is David Broom.
Welcome, David.
David is the founder and CEO of Transports. They're one of the nation's largest trucking staffing companies in the US and in Canada. And he has over 40 years of experience working with trucking leaders all across America. And so he is one of the reasons why we're able to build the relationships with employers that we have.
Let's go ahead and go to South Bay, had their hand up first. Sorry, Gloria.
Yeah, hey, we got two questions here, but I guess my question to you, Jason, is what has your experience been working with public training providers? Maybe go into detail about what you do with Goodwill, and then also what your experience is with the employment training panel list, the ETPL, would be very much of interest to all of us. And then there's another question that's coming from Aviv.
Absolutely. So we partner very closely with the workforce system, and we work with American Job Centers and workforce boards all across the country. What we really look to do is try to automate as much of the back end process as possible, because one of the things that we clearly heard from case managers is that a majority of their time is actually spent on the paperwork rather than working with the clients themselves. And so what we've done is we've actually worked with the workforce system to create a case management software where we're able to refer clients over to the American Job Center. We're building AI eligibility matching tools that allow us to, at the front end of the process, understand, does this person qualify for WIOA? Or do they qualify for other types of funding streams? And to make those recommendations directly to the case managers. Once the case manager at the American Job Center says, all right, this person has filled out all the paperwork, which by the way, FreeWorld facilitates, and they've chosen a funding stream to put this person through. We offer a variety of different services. One are going to be living stipends to increase the probability that a person completes training. We offer transportation. We also build performance contracts with each of the trucking schools that we work with, where the trucking school only gets paid if the person graduates or if a person fails 3 times. This saves the workforce system a ton of capital, because when somebody goes to trucking school, sometimes the drop-off rate, some people might drop out. And so under a pay-for-performance type of contract, you don't spend any money unless the person graduates, or a lot of time and effort has been spent trying to get that person their commercial driver's license. And then finally, before they even graduate, we're already working with them. We've got AI tools to make professional headshots and resumes and mock interview prep where you can talk about your criminal record and what you've learned from that experience. So that way we can get you placed into a job as quickly as possible. We provide all the case management, and we also provide all of that long-term data to the American Job Center. Tell them exactly which trucking schools are performing best, which employers are hiring, what the wages they're earning, and how long they're being retained in the industry.
So what does the AJCC do for you?
Well, the AJCC, they have access to numerous funding streams like WIOA as an example. And so, how our model works is today we leverage philanthropy to be able to pay for trucking school tuition. By working with the workforce system, it's a win-win. We're able to lower our cost per student by accessing streams like WIOA. And that allows us to then apply a much lower cost, but a $1,500 living stipend to help that individual complete school at higher rates.
All right, and then the ETPL. Your experience.
So our desire is to really work closely with government to see what we can do to automate government systems and to modernize government systems. We worked across so many state governments all across the United States. What I've heard is that some people are having to press 10 buttons just to get to one screen. And so we would love for our product engineering teams to partner with state governments like Goodwill Southern California, for example, where they have an RFP coming out later on this year to create that first of its kind virtual American Job Center. We would love to be a huge part of how they develop that new system.
All right, and then Aveen.
Yeah, good morning, Jason. Thanks for the presentation. My name is Aveen Sharma, and in addition to sitting on this board, I lead workforce development for the Port of Los Angeles. So obviously a very interesting conversation to me. As the nation's busiest port, we always look really closely on this conversation. And so I'm curious, and I'd love to follow up with you at a separate time, but my one question for you here is, in order to access ports, you need to have a TWIC card, a Transportation Worker Identification Card, that does involve background checks by TSA and DHS. So what's been your experience with your participants in getting TWIC cards?
Yeah, so we do help our students get TWIC cards. Not everybody will qualify. So I just want to say that up front. But we do help them navigate the process. And so in some cases, as an example, somebody might be incarcerated, but be incarcerated for 20 years. And so by the time that they're released, their criminal record actually doesn't show up on a background check. Now, for a TWIC, for example, it's a different type of background check, and so it does pop up. And so we work with the system to basically figure out the right paperwork that we can submit to help them get approved.
Okay, thank you.
Gloria.
Yes, first of all, my questions have been answered, and I'd like to thank you, Jason, for your presentation. I would hope that you would make your PowerPoint available to us. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. What's mine is yours.
Great. Any other? Yes.
Actually, I just want to provide some supporting case study for your clientele. I've actually, as an employer, been able to hire a multitude of people. Two come to mind, particularly both had significant violent felonies and 10 plus years in the system. Hired both. One today is a regional director for a national auto body chain, has a family, lives on his own, makes really good money. The other now works in, they both promoted out and work in, the other one works in local government, and I currently have probably one of my highest paid production members who is actively in the system. So I've been blessed, and that 39% doesn't fit the ones that we hired, but very successful turnarounds for all of the people that we've had. And I have other stories that are similar. So thank you for what you do, because it does provide some very loyal and strong workforce opportunities for us.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Alicia?
Just would also love to connect. I love the industries you're focused on. Thank you for sharing. Our organization has a program called Step into Tech, where we're connecting justice involved individuals, whether it's them directly or maybe their family, a parent with opportunities in the tech sector. And it seems like there's been quite an uptake. So would love to connect and talk about how we might partner.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that we talk to employers about is we ask them not to lower the standard, just to lower the barriers. Give a chance.
I do have a question too. I'm gonna jump in. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
Trying to get his attention over here.
He's trying to look that way. I was getting to you.
He just kept ignoring me. So. I can't do that.
Here.
I got the clue, but I'm gonna just speak up now. So thank you again for the presentation. Tony Cordova with the California Community Colleges. So as you guys know, that we have a strong emphasis in the rising scholars, right? And that's our justice impact students, both currently incarcerated as well as formerly incarcerated individuals. So there's a lot of work right there. So great presentation. Thank you very much. I want to, as an individual that serves the state of California and every student, right, from an equitable access to all the educational pathways, when you start talking about the trucking program, what does your future growth look like in other career pathways?
Yeah. So scale's in our DNA, right? So our vision is to provide every person coming out of incarceration with equitable access to multiple career fields. And so what we found is that dollar for dollar, trucking is the highest ROI of any industry that we've seen.
Yes.
You know, our pathway really focuses on sustainability. The limiting barrier for us is training cost. Because training cost there's no economies of scale to training costs. And so we are looking for different ways to utilize WIOA, Workforce Pell, SNAP ENT, and all those different funds to.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the workforce pell, because I was gonna go down that avenue, because you could look at the short-term skills, the skill building component of it to get those stackable credentials and certifications, right? So if you wanted to be DOL or DOT in special transportation carriers as well, right? So I think there's opportunities for you to really leverage into that and partner with the community colleges, and I'll do that shameless plug, right? The community colleges to be that training provider, because we are working on those non-credit, which are free costs,
Yes.
right? So there's opportunities there.
Yeah, Workforce Pell is very high on our priority list.
Good. Okay, thank you.
We'll make sure you're connected too after this. Yes, go ahead.
Would you ever consider serving juvenile justice involved youth? Because they too have a really hard time working in the workforce.
Absolutely. Juvenile justice is my heart. I went to prison at the age of 15. I was incarcerated with kids between the ages of 10 years old and 20 years old. And one of the things that I immediately noticed among all the people I was locked up with is that the vast majority of us had very little hope for our futures. Most of us felt that we were going to die or go to prison by the age of 21. And so, why try? So yes, we do want to work with that population. I think that the problem is so large and there's so many different areas that we could focus on, that one of the reasons why we chose the adult population is that it's challenging for juveniles to have agency. And so if you can provide an environment where two parents are at home teaching the right values to their kids, have a economically mobile career that can invest in their future, that's one of the most powerful ways, I think, that we can help juveniles.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Jason. I appreciate you telling your story, your personal story, and the work that you're doing is really important. The trucking industry is facing, as you mentioned, workforce shortfalls. There's a big demand, and part of the problem has been as Mayor Richardson mentioned, is the proliferation of independent contractors versus employees, which makes it very difficult for someone who's working in the trucking industry to stay through the independent contractor model. As a response, what we're seeing is a lot of the corporations that are employing truckers are looking at new technology, driverless vehicles, and they're advocating for that. Do you have an advocacy arm to kind of, I know they're partners in this work because you're helping to train folks to then work at these corporations, but what work are you doing on that front? Because that is a threat to, the folks that you are serving, that are justice involved.
Yep, absolutely. So first of all, we don't have any advocacy arm when it comes to self-driving technology. If anything, we're excited by the progression of technology, but I think that, I could share my thoughts, but why not hand it over to the veteran, the 40-year veteran in the trucking industry when it comes to self-driving technology?
I just did the math, it's 42. I'm the original founder from a group called the Transforce Group, and we actually have our own CDL school division as well. We are set up to actually train drivers to be inside the truck for the trucks. The technology is just not in the roadway yet for that to happen. There are, we're running driverless trucks between Arizona and California now. It's going to be the long haul. There is a driver shortage for quality drivers, but we believe that there will be, especially in the city, there will always be a driver in the truck, sort of like the airplanes still have pilots, even though planes pretty much fly themselves today. So we believe that the driver's skill set will change, but there will be a driver in the truck. And that's coming from the manufacturers of those. So, it's always going to be a driver shortage because there's too much going on in the cities for the trucks to drive themselves.
And just at a macro lens, trucking is the backbone of America. It transports 72% of all freight. Everything that we have in this room likely came off the back of a truck. And so it is one of America's largest employers as an industry.
Any other questions, comments? Mayor Richardson?
One more thing. So Well, I'm gonna be referring your program to different folks, but I like the idea. Um, sometimes when a family is impacted by the justice system, it may not be the individual who's incarcerated who needs the opportunity. It may be the wife, the husband, the spouse, whatever, needs to step up and make more money. So do the people who work with you directly have to be justice involved, or could they be related to, impacted in their?
Yeah, we would love to serve more. Got to stay focused right now, just in population right now. So yes, today they have to have some type of criminal record. But in the future, if we have the funding for it and the sustainability and the business model for it, we'd love to serve wider and wider groups of populations.
Great.
Any other questions, comments? Jason, I cannot thank you enough for coming and presenting to us. Your personal story is really what inspired me, and then just the thoughtfulness on every aspect of your platform and the support infrastructure that you provide. As you know, people brought up all these issues about that first year, those first 2 years, how you really work to get people through to sustainability. I'm hopeful that many of us will continue to engage with Jason and find opportunities. My personal commitment is to try to continue to help you find funding, because I think what you're doing is really important and impactful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. If we just have another round of applause. You're welcome to stay or whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I'd like to ask if there's any public comment on this item. Emily, are you available to answer that?
No public comment.
No public comment. Is there any comment from the room? None, hearing none. At this time, I would like to take the next opportunity to invite Michael Wiafe, the Assistant Deputy Director for Workforce Policy and External Affairs, to provide an update on the ad hoc committee meetings that have been progressive. Please go ahead and take the seat.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, Director Pereira. Good morning, everyone. Michael Wiafe, Assistant Deputy Director. I just want to say a big thank you to all of you who joined our conversations over the past couple of months for the ad hoc meetings. I hope they've been very informative to you, as they very much so have been to me. For those who haven't been able to join yet, and maybe I can give a little bit of a primer here. We've been able to have several conversations over the past couple of months, and our goal is, between these larger board meetings where we have, of course, deep substantive conversations, that we're able to have much shorter, 1 hour, 2 hour maximum is the goal, conversations each month in between these larger discussions. The agenda items for those conversations are designed to be one region and one topic. And so the first typically has been a region, and then the second has been a topic. In January, we did have some folks from the Inland Empire come in and be able to present some of the work that they're doing. We had a robust discussion, and then we're able to discuss the master plan for career education. In February, we had the Bay Area presentation, and we're joined by some additional folks to talk about the construction careers. Last month was very interesting. We had the Redwood Coast, and we also had some folks come in and talk about quantum and some of the workforce happenings in that space. During this board meeting, we do have some folks who are coming in from the Sacramento region to talk about some of the work that's happening right here at home for some of us, as well as talking about apprenticeships today. Over the next couple of months, we also have additional, the rest of the regions in California, Eastern Sierra, Orange County, we have Los Angeles, we have the Central Valley regions, North and Central San Joaquin, in North State, as well as others, as well as topics such as the healthcare careers. Based on the discussion in October, we figured we might want to touch on AI one more time during the year of 2026. But this agenda item in particular is really just to hear bits of feedback, maybe take some questions that folks may have. And in case you want to share any insights or curiosities on topics that we should consider to have in future agenda items, we can do that at the time as well. If you think that this is all going swimmingly and you have nothing to share, that's also very much okay.
Well, I would just love to share. It's so appreciated, the deep dive on the regions, and look forward to more to come. I think you all know a lot of the conveners of K16 and CJF are meeting together in collective groups and kind of self-organizing some meetings. And so it's great, but there's not enough time to do a deep dive into each region when everyone gets together. And I know you guys have been a part of that. Thank you. But having this really deep dive is so helpful, because I think we're all trying to learn from each other as we continue to implement. So thank you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you sharing that. I must also say to that note, we've learned lessons along the way. I'd say with each and every ad hoc meeting, we've learned quite a few lessons that allows us to improve the next. So thank you so much for sharing those comments.
And I would just comment with the rapid, speed of transformation, evolution with AI, addressing it, not waiting a year, but coming back to it. So if there's input or things that are on people's minds, and we can bring in specific experts or individuals in leadership positions to talk about it, let us know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let us know as soon as possible.
I'd like to see at one of the future ones, a dialogue around effective practices for working with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities for workforce centers, and working with not just the individuals facing the barriers, but more importantly, probably the employers, and how to get them across that risk threshold that is keeping them back from making effective hiring decisions. So I'd really love to see that introduced.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Any other comments from the room or perhaps from our 2 satellite location? None. Apparently you've done a fantastic job with the ad hoc meetings and we're going to continue doing them. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any public comments for this item?
No public comment.
Great, thank you so much. Is there anything from email or YouTube? Just check in again. Nope.
No.
Okay, at this time, we are going to continue on with the normal agenda with a presentation around the capital region. I'll just say that, we did this tour a few months back and it started with some perspectives on construction, especially in the regional area. We did some site tours of training facilities and academies within the region, as well as went into my first experience tasting alternative meats, which was quite interesting. It wasn't bad, I will say that. It was pretty good. But we'll love to have and invite Carrie Chang, who is our staff associated with the Capital Region, to offer up a presentation on our visit. Thank you so much.
Hello all, my name is Carrie Chang, and I'm so excited to talk to you about the Capital Region today. Slide please. So the Capital Region is an 8-county region that includes both like urban and rural communities. So as you can see on the map, from left, Calusa, Yolo, all the way spanning across to Nevada, Placer, and El Dorado on the right. This is unique in the sense that it really creates a diverse economic landscape with different workforce needs across counties and demographics. But we do see that across regions, residents face similar challenges like rising housing costs, limited childcare access, environmental risk, and uneven access to opportunity. Slide. Especially in a large and active workforce like the Capital Region, a significant portion of residents are still struggling financially. About 38% of residents don't earn enough to meet basic needs. One of the main barriers we're seeing is job access. Jobs are often concentrated in areas while many workers live further away. On the right, you'll see a commute pattern data, which we kindly took from the Jobs First Capital Regions regional plan. It's that where people live and where jobs are located often don't line up. So many workers travel outside their home counties to reach employment centers, particularly toward urban hubs. So it's not just about having jobs available. The challenge is making sure people can realistically get to them. And what I've shared today is just a high level snapshot of the region. It barely scratches the surface, but I highly encourage for anyone curious about the region to read the full plan. It's a great resource. And our next presenter, who have been doing incredible work across the region, played a key role in leading this collaborative effort. And just the development of it. I'm excited to turn it over to Valley Vision. They're deeply connected to the communities and understand the workforce and economic challenges firsthand, and are leading innovative initiatives to strengthen communities. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Really happy to be here. Do you want us here in the middle?
Right there.
Yeah, right in the middle would be great.
Give a TED talk.
Yes.
We will be like.
All right, well, my name is Evan Schmidt. I'm the CEO of Valley Vision. Valley Vision, regional convener for the California Jobs First. Work in our 8-county region. Thanks for that overview, Carrie. And we also do really extensive work in workforce development across the capital region. So what we wanted to bring to you today is a little bit of talk about that workforce work that we do across the region and how we're integrating that with our California Jobs First. So we want to talk a little bit about the priorities that we've shaped as part of California Jobs First and how those really support strategic workforce development investments and inclusive pathways into our high growth sectors. So with that, we're going to start with talking a little bit about our workforce work. I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin Blockus, our Senior Project Manager, to talk about that.
Thank you. If we could advance to the next slide. Let's see a couple beautiful headshots of Evan and I. And one more slide, please. Thank you. Well, following up on Carrie's wonderful intro, just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the Capital Region RPU. Carrie walked through some of the counties that are inclusive there, but I also want to talk about the workforce boards that represent our area. And that is the Yolo County Workforce Innovation Board, Sacramento Employment and Training Agency, North Central Counties Consortium, and Golden Sierra Job Training Agency. So they all represent our region here. I'll also note too that our region is representative of 2.46 million people. It's one of the largest RPUs in the state. And noting on what Carrie said earlier, we have that, that diverse urban core, we have agricultural lands and rural foothill communities. So pretty diverse geographic area there. Moving to our next slide. As a part of that, our local workforce boards have a co-investment strategy, which supports regional industry advisories that are hosted by Valley Vision. As a part of that, these bring together our local employers, community college faculty, training partners, and providers to essentially get all of these folks in one room. They feature that current regional local labor market data and a panel of employer partners. This is a really panel, which is very informative for folks in the audience. We also bring deep dives into the current kind of state of the market, guest speakers, et cetera. And as a result, these events really underline the critical skill gaps that we're seeing across different industry sectors and informing our community college curriculum to make sure it's in line with what employers are looking for. So when folks graduate, we can get them right into those career pathways. Next slide, please. I wanted to talk a little bit of data coming out of these events, talking about our impact and reach here. So as a result of these advisories, this is a snapshot from our last annual season. We host 7 of these a year. They're joined by over 450 participants. And as a part of that and our overall project work, we engage over 200 employers. You can see our lovely little pie chart here, which also encapsulates the participants who attend these advisories. So pretty diverse there as well. Some fun QR codes for y'all to scan later, but I'll kind of talk about that in my next slide here. So coming out of these advisories, they're either in a hybrid or an in-person capacity, but we always record them and put them up online. Been very helpful for folks who aren't able to attend. We often get feedback sometimes months later of someone who finally went into YouTube and watched the recording of the advisory. We also develop meeting proceedings reports about a month after the event and send them out to all who register, and includes our labor market data and the event presentations, all available online on our website. And we also put together kind of short snapshot of one-pagers that folks can access as well. So that's just some assets coming out of the advisory, and I'll move to our next slide here and pass it back to Evan.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. And when Carrie started us off, she said that 33% of folks in the capital region have a hard time making their basic needs. And that's why from the very beginning, we've been really aligned around quality and promising jobs. And so as we've done the We Prosper Together work, and as we do our workforce work, all of our research, all of our community engagement was really oriented towards how do we create more opportunities and grow our quality jobs and our promising jobs in our region. That's how we aligned the data, and that's how we made our sector priority choices. Let's go to the next slide. So knowing that our opportunity to grow high quality jobs really comes through our tradable sectors, we leaned into 4 different tradable sectors as our key priorities for the capital region. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this slide, but I will say all of these key sectors really are leveraging our assets as a region. And as Carrie said, we're an 8-county region, really diverse communities. We have a lot of food and agriculture as well as forestry across our 8 counties. So working lands is a key piece of that. We have great innovation assets with UC Davis and other educational institutions in our region. So really leaning into those, especially plant and life sciences trajectory that we have. Precision manufacturing, that's been an area of a lot of industry momentum in the last few years. And then business services really seizes upon the government capabilities that we have as a government town that can get translated into professional services and IT and all and those sorts of careers. So that's what we leaned into with our priority tradable sectors. And in some cases, these make up, a relatively small share of our economy right now. So as we think of inclusive pathways and really resilient communities, we have to think about local serving sectors as well. So let's go to the next slide. We made some priorities there, really looking at what is the greatest share of our economy and what offers the most high quality jobs. So across that spectrum, we looked at healthcare, construction, creative economy, and hospitality as our key priorities that could meet the needs of our whole region. And, as you can see, this is 8 sectors. That's a lot of, so that's a really wide focus. So as we're moving forward with We Prosper Together, thinking about how do we regionalize this, how do we operationalize it, we've narrowed down into a more focused area on the next slide, which is the 3 sectors that we're prioritizing the most. And I'm going to talk in a little more detail about each one of these, but these are biosciences, healthcare, and precision manufacturing. And let's go to the slide to talk about biosciences. And when you think about the assets that we already have in the region around biosciences, this really feeds upon the food and ag production that we already have in the region, the innovation assets through UC Davis and UC Ag and Natural Resources, which has a pretty significant presence here in the region, and new assets like Aggie Square that really seizes upon health services to move us more robustly into life sciences. So we see this as a set of complementary assets that we really have the potential to grow and build. And I could talk a lot about this spectrum graphic that you see right here, but the main takeaway that I'll pull from it is if you look at that middle band where it says industrial life sciences, that's kind of this this kind of overlap of our ag and food production and our healthcare services, both of which are really strong and present this emergent area where we already have a lot of strengths, but also a lot of opportunity to grow. I'll note that tomorrow we'll be pitching at the GoBiz Catalyst Summit on a biosciences play for our region, where we'll be asking, we have 3 different projects in our cluster asking to support the infrastructure, the innovation ecosystem, and the workforce pathways for our biosciences sector. So we really see this as something we're betting on. We really feel strongly that this is an area of strength and potential for us. Next slide. And this brings us to healthcare. You saw that's a really important part of that spectrum. A lot of growth continues there. That's our largest sector in the region. And this work really translates to workforce development. We're not looking to grow new jobs in healthcare necessarily. It's largely a local sector, but solving these critical pathways and finding placements into the system, really important part of what we're working on within the region, as well as our system partners and our educational partners looking to build those training programs that connect to on-the-job training opportunities that connect to long-term professional jobs. And next slide. And then finally, precision manufacturing. This is another area of profound potential and growth for us. We have 9 global semiconductor firms in our region. A lot of that growth has occurred over the last few years, and we are much more highly concentrated in semiconductor positions in our region than in other places across the nation. So we already have jobs in this space. We have a lot of potential to grow, and we're really looking at microelectronics, semiconductors, battery production, medical devices, and advanced agricultural equipment. These are high quality jobs that deliver really high wages and offer a lot of potential for the capital region. Next slide. All right, so Caitlin and I did not come alone. We not only have our local workforce boards on Zoom or in the room, but we also have some of our key partners who are delivering on different aspects of this work and of these different sector priorities. So I'm going to invite our partners to come on up and allow them to talk about some of these stories from the field. But we have one from each of our priority sectors. So we're going to talk about the Los Rios Community College District Catalyst Program grant and building a healthcare talent pipeline. We have another Catalyst grant with Next Gen Bio. This is UC Davis creating career awareness around our biosciences. And then we have a K-16 collaborative grant with Sierra College focused on what they're doing around mechatronics. So let's go to the next slide. Mark, since you're right here, I'll invite Mark to come in first and just tell us a brief introduction and a little bit about what your project is.
Sure. So I'm Mark Facciati. I'm a faculty member in biomedical engineering over at UC Davis. I also have an appointment at the Genome Center, so kind of genomics, medical devices, and that kind of space is where I live most of my days. I also have a fairly large, at least for UC Davis, initiative and kind of research effort in educational research and workforce development and training at the university. So I'm very happy to have been invited here today. We are recipients of one of the Catalyst grants, and we are using that money to build awareness in some of the local high school and community college community here, really focused right in downtown Sacramento, the students there, in the area of technology and manufacturing and kind of the intersection between those. We are building a program that's housed over in Aggie Square. The students spend a lot of time will be spending a lot of time over in Aggie Square, sometime over the UC Davis campus, getting a sense for what careers look like in the biological sciences in this region, what they look like outside the region, and try to inspire them to bring that kind of work to the Sacramento region as well, both as contributors in as employees for the companies, but also trying to inspire them to be maybe some of the innovators and entrepreneurs in the future that might help build industry in the region. So yeah, that's how long you would like me to go, but
No, that's great.
yeah.
Maybe I'll just ask you a couple
Sure,
follow-up
of course.
questions. So as you were thinking about your Catalyst grant program, what made you want to focus on biosciences and really lean into that sector opportunity?
Well, I think there's some bias, obviously, because I'm in the biological sciences, but I think it is nationally and even in the state an area of a lot of potential growth. There's a huge amount of investment in the biological sciences, both kind of in the ag sector and the med sector. And it would be fantastic if the region here could capture some of that investment and grow opportunities in that space. It's a space that I'm very comfortable in because that's what my job is. And so I'd love to see more of that around the region.
That's great. And I think your program really captures on that early career awareness on an emerging sector. So I think that's great. When you think about next steps or scaling, what's on your mind about what comes next after the Catalyst program?
Oh, I mean, I think, we're just launching now, as you know.
Yeah.
We've had all our students come in for their first kind of interactions with us. It's been an amazing experience to meet the students and to kind of see their enthusiasm and breadth of kind of prior experience in the field and just get a sense of where they're at. I would love to see what we're doing now continue, but I think the next step is really, and we're starting to work on this with you, Kevin, in the consortium, but is really to think about what the next steps are for them and really building solid pathways out from this introductory experience. We've got programming planned to help them see what the educational pathways are to different types of jobs. We're going to be having them interact with employers both regionally and outside the region in this area, but really building kind of some wraparound supports that help them get excited in the program that we're offering now, and then have the tools to move forward into those career pathways. And so making that part more robust would be fantastic.
That's great. Well, really appreciate the work you're doing. And I know that early career awareness is such an important component of inclusive pathways and inclusive growth for the sector. So really excited about the program and thank you.
I'll add just one kind of motivating hypothesis here is that if we want to build in the region, we got to get people in the region excited early on, right? It's got to be people from the Sacramento region that want to be here, that want to build. And that's one of the motivations for really reaching out kind of early on at the high school level. Let's get the people that live here and are invested in the region to be the ones that help push them forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Amy. Okay. Dr. Amy Schultz from Sierra College. Would love to have you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your program.
Thank you, Evan. Yeah, my name is Dr. Amy Schultz, and I am the Executive Dean for Workforce and Strategic Initiatives at Sierra College. Sierra College is, our main campus is in Rockland, but we serve both Placer and Nevada counties. 25% of our students actually come from Sacramento County, so we're very much rooted in the greater Sacramento area, and most of our a lot of our employer partners are also in Sacramento County. As far as precision manufacturing, this is an area that we've been investing in for the last couple of decades. And then when Strong Workforce came through about a decade ago, we kind of doubled down. So we have grown our mechatronics program, which is industrial automation and robotics and microelectronics. We started a new advanced manufacturing program for CNC machining, and actually just a couple of years ago launched a CNC machinist apprenticeship program. We have a vibrant welding program that we work closely with many regional employers, and Siemens Mobility right here in Sacramento is one of our biggest employers out of that program. With Strong Workforce funds, we were actually able to upgrade our welding program to do stainless steel welding, which requires like a higher level of ventilation, is expensive to start, but we were able to do that and then get students right into that pipeline with Siemens. And then with stainless steel, that's also for agricultural food processing. So it really is a good match for our region. I think today we wanted to talk specifically about mechatronics. With mechatronics and precision manufacturing, and all those areas fall under precision manufacturing. But the exciting program with our mechatronics program is, you might have heard, but Bosch has located to Roseville. And in the location that they're in, that was previously located, that was previously had different semiconductor manufacturers in that location. So Sierra College has been training for companies in that location for semiconductor technicians for about 30 years. Even before we had a mechatronics program, we were doing training for that. So when Bosch came in, it was just a natural partnership. In fact, the same, they kept their entire workforce on board. So their director of HR is the same as it was before. And so the challenge was, they were happy with the curriculum, it was already working, but we needed to scale, and we needed to scale pretty rapidly. So they're planning to hire several hundred semiconductor technicians between now and 2031. So we have our work cut out for us. Through our mechatronics program, which trains semiconductor technicians, also trains technicians across really all industry sectors in the region and beyond. I mean, we have Micron from Boise, Idaho coming and hiring out of our program. And so we need to scale that program. So what we did is we partnered with our with Roseville Joint Union High School District to really expand our dual enrollment pathway, and with K-16 collaborative funding and K-12 strong workforce funding, they were able to launch 2 mechatronics pathways. So one at Oakmont High School and one at Antelope High School. Those high schools are both Title I high schools. So those are disproportionately impacted student populations. These jobs, and I have an annual report, and this is about a lot of our CTE programs, but mechatronics is highlighted in here on page 20, Ella's story. So this is an example of what this potential is. Ella took dual enrollment while she was in high school. She took 1 mechatronics class and also got her general education done out of the way. So she fell in love with mechatronics. When she came to Sierra College, she decided to major in mechatronics. She happened to be in the same cohort as our Bosch operators. So we have a partnership with Bosch, and they're sending operators to come and do training at mechatronics at Sierra. She happened to be in that same cohort. She graduated with her associate's degree in mechatronics at 19 years old and was hired by Bosch, making about $75,000 starting. And when you talk to Ella, the thing she is most proud of is zero debt. Zero debt. So she's 19, starting at 75,000, no debt, ready to buy a house one day. And Bosch, like many employers, has tuition reimbursement. She's a very bright young woman, I have no doubt that she will go on for a bachelor's degree. So that is really what we are hoping to do with scaling our mechatronics program. And yeah, so that's kind of an overview.
Yeah, that's great. I think that Sierra College has been particularly agile, I think, in how you formulated your curriculum and your programs, and also become really well known for the employer engagement that you have, especially in manufacturing. Can you tell us a little bit about how you formed those relationships as you think about this partnership that I think has been really elevated as a best-in-class partnership with Bosch? You know, how did you make that happen? What are any lessons learned that you have about the employer engagement and those like specific partnerships that you created?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. These are the HR director at Bosch, Scott Olson, which I just came back. I left our Placer Workforce Development Foundation meeting early to come here, and he's on that board. So we're like crossing all the time. He has been a partner of Sierra College for 20 years. And that is typical of a lot of our manufacturing employers. So we're really looking for long-term partnerships. It's, you know, Siemens came to us about 8 years ago and said they were going to Oklahoma and trying to find welders. They were going all over the country, and people would come here, they'd hire people, but then they wouldn't stay. And they're like, we need to grow our own here. So we worked with them to come up together to co-design like how we can, you know, how we could do the stainless steel welding. What, you know, we figured out the capital investment, but then there's a teaching component. Those are hard instructors to find. And so they actually let some of their employees off the line to come and teach for us. Their director of recruiting and talent, he actually is one of our welding instructors. So he kind of gets the when he's hiring. But so those are the types of partnerships that we're looking for. We're looking for long-term that is mutually beneficial. It's not just a, you know, one-off, we need 100 people tomorrow. Like that we're looking, we can do that, but it's not going to necessarily be effective. We're also looking for things that are a long-term investment, like mechatronics. Semiconductor technician is hot right now. And we will do what we can to fill those gaps. But if you know, there's a switch in the industry, we know the skills that those students are gaining in the mechatronics program are transferable across industries. So they're important in water and utilities. They're important in like any sort of manufacturing, logistics. So we're growing programs for the long term, and we're looking for long-term partnerships.
Yeah, that's great. And then when you think about scaling, because I know you've thought about that with mechatronics, and I'll also note that Amy is going to be pitching a little bit as well tomorrow at the Catalyst Summit, because Sierra College is leading on the biomanufacturing component, workforce component of our proposal cluster of proposals in biomanufacturing. And so we've done a lot of talking about scaling in general, but when you think about mechatronics, how are you thinking about scaling? What kind of mechanisms do you have to think about that, and what do you see as some of your next steps?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, in the near future, what we're doing is working with our high school partners to build out those programs. So one of the challenges with mechatronics, there's two major ones, is, you know, we need the lab and facility space, and we're really at capacity at Sierra College for that. And also awareness, like people don't know about these careers. They might think like engineering and I need to go do calculus and all this stuff. This is the 8 classes and you're in the workforce. And just like getting that awareness out. So that's where the dual enrollment and partnering with the high schools and our K-12 partners is really essential. But we also are looking at, and we're really happy to share that we are the new host college for the North Far North Regional Consortia. And with that, we really want to kind of replicate these models with other colleges. There could be opportunities that, you know, like Sac City College might offer some classes related to the mechatronics, and maybe they can't do the whole thing, but those students could, you know, come and finish up at Sierra or find placements. We've had conversations with Yuba College about similar things. So I think looking at like how we can scale this across the region is definitely an interest.
Great, thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
All right. We have one more presenter who is on a Zoom screen. I see you up there, Teresa. We have Teresa Milan from Los Rios Community College District to talk about the healthcare pathways work that they've been doing, which is also a Catalyst funded program. And is coming out of our region's talent pipeline management work of our major healthcare systems. So Teresa, I'll let you briefly introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the project.
Sure, thanks, Evan. Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa Milan. I'm the Associate Vice President of Workforce and Online Engagement for Los Rios Community College District. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here today and provide an overview of our We Prosper Together project. With these funds, we were able to develop 3 high-demand programs in the healthcare field: surgical technology at Cosumnes River College, cardiovascular technology at Sacramento City College, and rad tech at Folsom Lake College. We were able to build state-of-the-art labs that replicate real hospital environments and create curriculum that aligns with industry standards. Our goal was really to address the critical healthcare workforce shortages in our region. But more importantly, these programs will increase access to affordable, high-quality education and create clear pathways to living wage careers. So all 3 of these occupations earn more than $30 per hour. And often they make quite a bit more with just a few years of experience. We feel very fortunate to have had this opportunity to the We Prosper Together funds. We would not have been able to move that quickly without these dollars. It's very expensive to build healthcare programs. And we braided actually 3 different funding sources together in order to launch these programs. So without the We Prosper Together, we would be on a much slower path. And these are critical needs that our region needs. Being able to move quickly has been important to addressing the shortages, but also providing these high quality opportunities for our students. And our students are very diverse. We serve a very diverse community. 31% of our students identify as Hispanic or Latino, 9% is African American, 19% is Asian, and 7% as mixed race, and 46% of our students report as being low or below poverty levels of income, which is probably even understated because more than 17% of our students decline to share that information with us. So these jobs are a clear path out of poverty for many of the students that we serve.
Teresa, Los Rios is such a huge anchor community college in our region. It's really the biggest system, impacts so many students across the region. How do you think of healthcare as a sector in terms of importance as you're training students and moving them through your programs? And kind of how did you come to the emphasis that you have on this sector?
Healthcare is so important. It's one of the largest sectors that we have in the region, and it offers so many different high-paying pathways for our students, or even stackable credentials. They can start with medical assisting and then move into an LVN and then bridge into an RN position and make quite a bit of money. So it provides just opportunity. So the reason why we leaned into this area is that it's founded on the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Talent Pipeline Management Framework, as Evan had mentioned earlier. The Roseville Chamber of Commerce brought together the 4 large hospital systems in our region: Kaiser, Permanente, Sutter, Dignity, and UC Davis Health. And they came together to identify where the most critical workforce bottlenecks that were causing delays in providing procedures or diagnostic capacity, and which of those those occupations were most needed in our region. And these 3 occupations were at the top of the list. They then invited the education institutions to the table, and we had a conversation about their needs. In addition to the research that they did through this talent pipeline management, we also worked with our Center of Excellence, which is an applied research unit at Los Rios, to look at the projections. And I think Evan already showed those to you. So you saw them earlier, that they all showed that there was a critical need and high growth for these positions. That was, really driven by employer needs and grounded in labor market information. And that was the impetus for building these programs.
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. I think that's just such a great example of industry-led, creating the solutions within the industry and then having the system provider follow up with addressing those issues that have been highlighted. So fantastic that you're able to do that. When you think about next steps or scaling or continuing to address those critical occupational needs, where do you see or what do you see in terms of next steps on this?
We are at an exciting milestone for these 3 programs. We're very close to launching the first cohorts. So that's a big deal for us. We're really excited to be able to start enrolling students in these programs. The first few courses that have been offered are exploratory courses that let students come in and learn a little bit about this field, make a decision if this is the right choice for them. Those classes have filled up almost immediately. So there's interest by our students and by the community to enter these careers. As we look to scale, we want to continue our partnerships with the healthcare employers in the region for clinical placements. All 3 programs have a requirement that that our students participate in these clinical rotations as an accreditation requirement. And so it's very important that we work closely with the hospital systems to secure these spots for our students so that they gain the experience they need and they're ready when they leave our doors. In addition, we will continue to work with Valley Vision and the regional advisory committees to build partnerships with employers and understand the critical labor market needs. And if there are additional areas that need to be addressed, that's when we want to look at the research and again, find opportunities like this to invest in new program development or just adjusting programs to meet the evolving labor market needs. One area that we're exploring right now is the clinical research coordinators. This also came to us from industry, from UC Davis, sharing that there is a significant interest and need for this position in our region. And so we're in the first steps of launching that program as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Teresa. A lot of great stuff happening there, a lot of potential. I think I'll go ahead and wrap up our presentation time. Maybe just reflecting a little bit on the last 3 years that our partners have all been working together on the California Jobs First program in coordination with the workforce work that we do. And the big change that I've seen is a really significant level of cohesion and alignment across our partners. Or that's one of the big changes that I've seen. A lot of capacity has come into our region to launch programs like this, to create these opportunities to not only bring industry together, but then to be responsive of what industry is telling us, and then to make sure that our system partners are working really cohesively together. And I'll use our biomanufacturing application as an example of that. Everyone that you heard from today and all of our organizations are part of that partnership, as well as all of our local workforce development boards. I feel like by coming in here, it was off. I think that coming to these this focus around these three sectors has provided a tremendous amount of clarity, not only in what we're trying to achieve when it comes to economic growth, but how everybody lines up behind these sector priorities and finds our place and supports the same goals. And that has been a just wonderful opportunity of the California Jobs First program. And I would add K-16 to that as well. That's been another one of those spaces that we've really been able to come together, as well as the RERP dollars. I think there's just been a lot of mechanisms to bring us into alignment. I'm looking over at Renee John. She was one of our main architects of the Jobs First program at Valley Vision, and now she's the deputy director over at Zeta, leading workforce over there. So our systems just have a lot of opportunity to work together. Really appreciate all the partners that you heard from today and the really amazing on the ground work that they've been doing. And in that partnership, I would also add our relationship and partnership with the state. It was so great having you come to the roundtables. That was a great opportunity for us, and the relationship that we've had with GoBiz, with your agency and others has been just incredibly beneficial for us. So have really appreciated the opportunity on that program and appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Great, thanks.
Unfortunately, because this is a public meeting, I'm gonna have to ask you to stay up for a second and provide our board members the opportunity to grill you on some questions that I'm sure are burning a hole in their pocket. Does anybody have any questions from Sacramento? Yes, Tony.
I don't have a question. It's more of a comment or a statement, but as a representative of the state of California Community Colleges, I sit here and I see the collaboration, I see the partnership, I see the growth, I see the development. I just get overjoyed with so much excitement and fulfillment, right? Being able to witness that, but then also know that we are serving our communities, we are serving our students, and it does work when we come together and we have these partnerships. So I just want to, on behalf of our system, thank you for everything that you're doing and appreciate the presentation.
We have a question from South Bay. Then I'll go back to the room again.
Yeah, hi. Really fantastic work you're all doing. I love the industry involvement. I love the pathways to good jobs. So I did spend 8 years as a deputy mayor in the city of LA overseeing our workforce development work. And then I did 7 years as the president of a community college, LA Trade Tech College, which is a 80% career education environment for students, and have deep appreciation for both. One of the things we were able to do was to actually get our local AJCCs to co-locate in our community colleges. And so we have 7 co-locations in Los Angeles at this point. But I guess, I've heard really great, information about what the community colleges are doing. I saw the great connections through dual enrollment that you can be able to put together. I heard a lot about the intermediaries that you're working with. And I'm just wondering if there is experience in what the connections are back to the AJCCs. Are you able, maybe you're not at that stage to really take advantage of what they do provide in terms of training dollars, the work they do in terms of support service dollars, et cetera. But can you give me any sense of where the system that we're responsible for are the AJCCs, where and how they fit into the equation? And if they're not there, why are they not there? What could we do to kind of, make sure that they are more a part of the great work that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I would love to throw that over to Renee John from our Sacramento employment team.
I'm happy to answer that. Renee John with the Sacramento Employment and Training Agency, previously with Valley Vision. So I kind of have both sides of the equation. We're fortunate for that. Many of our workforce boards in the Capital Region do have co-location with the community colleges. So we are fortunate with that. It is contingent on funding sometimes. And so there is potential interruption for that based on funding cuts for strong workforce, or at least allocations to the local colleges. So that's something that we're actively working on because it has been beneficial and it's something that we want to continue. Community colleges and workforce boards in the Capital Region have a long history of collaboration, mostly due to the regional organizing that Valley Vision does and those shared advisories that have historically been co-funded by regional plan implementation funds and strong workforce funds through Los Rios and the community colleges north allotment. So it isn't a new partnership for us. We're always looking to integrate it more effectively, and that work is ongoing. And I think one of the areas with California Jobs First is really, and the workforce board system has been turning toward pathway models that lead to high quality jobs. And so how can we do that effectively? Sometimes there are longer trajectories and more supports are needed, or a longer term case management is needed. So how do we find the dollars to be able to do that in the workforce board system? So I hope I answered the question, but if not, let me know and I'll try again.
I also just want to note that we did invite our local workforce development boards as well too, to this meeting. We wanted to rally everybody. So we also have workforce boards representative here that can also answer to some of the questions that you're having regarding like how they're partnering together.
Yes, there's several online, including YOLO Works, Deanna. So if any others want to contribute, Jason Buckingham from Golden Sierra, and then Lauren and Julie also from Zeta. I don't know, did I capture it for all of us, or is anybody there's space?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did a good job. The only thing that I would add is that, you know, we have partnerships that go beyond just co-location. I think some of this has been discussed, but we've, you know, worked together across the region to ensure that we do things like incorporate the talent pipeline management and the California Jobs First sectors into our regional plans. We also oftentimes, at least in the Golden Sierra world, I can say that we partner with Sierra College through RERP funding and other initiatives where maybe we don't have an AJCC co-located at the facility, but we have staff co-located. So, you know, we're working on different initiatives all in alignment with this type of work. We want to make sure that we're not working in silos. So.
For YOLO, I'll just say, you know, I would say it's a work in progress. We're not currently co-located with any community colleges. We do have planned site visits with our staff to just continue to like strengthen our linkages and understand each other's and be able to refer to each other's programs. And one of the things that YOLO hasn't been doing that I am wanting to move us in the direction of doing is leveraging WIOA funds that I know that many of the workforce boards already, this is like standard operations for them, but at YOLO, we've never done that, which is using WIOA funds for supportive services to refer, and then having that count towards our performance measures for WIOA. So that's something I want to move us in the direction of as a way to further our partnerships with community colleges.
Thank you.
So I have a question, actually. You guys identified surge tech, rad tech, and cardio techs as principally important and critical needs. How consistently do you do those reviews for demand side? And I know that you're engaging with the hospitals in that effort. How often do you have those conversations with them on critical needs and barriers?
With the hospitals, they are still coming together with the talent management pipeline. At first, they were getting together on a bi-monthly basis. It's kind of slowed down a bit. But we work very closely with Valley Vision, and they also they help with the regional advisory committees, which includes healthcare, and bringing together those employers at least twice a year. And so that's one way that we kind of check back in with industry to make sure that we're aligning with the regional workforce needs and if there's any potential gaps that we need to look at.
Great. And do you have an understanding of what the cohort sizes are for the 3 programs?
You know, I could guess, but I'm not going to.
Okay, that's fine.
I think it's limited because of the lab facilities. So it's not, you know, huge numbers. And, you know, getting a program off the ground, that's where we start. If it doesn't seem to be meeting the needs of our region, then we may check back in and start building additional capacity. But initially we start with one cohort. And I said I was going to guess, but usually it's about 30 students.
Thank you so much.
Well, they're usually smaller because of the clinical placement issue with those particular positions. There's just very few opportunities, not like nursing where there's
Well, given the report out that they showed, there was like a 300+ need in each of those segments. And so just wondering how quick to replicate this type of program in other institutions might be to actually meet the overall critical need, which is, sounds like it'll be about just 300 and we're talking maybe 20. A number of cohorts to be able to get even a bite out of that apple.
But I think part of the problem is in this region is they're playing catch up. So we had some programs, some private vocational programs that met some of those needs that went out of business. And so there wasn't anyone to fill the gap. And so there's a backlog of opportunities. And even if you had 300 students though in a class, you couldn't get them all through the facilities for training.
Okay. Anybody, any other questions, comments?
Just want to say congratulations. Like, it's been a long time coming. Y'all have worked significantly to be in alignment with the employers and with the education systems. I commend Valley Vision for your leadership in this space. And the roundtables were fantastic. So thank you so much.
I just have one more comment, which is, it's an illustration of the differences of our communities, right? So like we've heard there's nursing shortages everywhere, but it's not actually the same shortages everywhere. And these kinds of reports are really instructive and helpful for us to understand what is in demand look like in our various communities, so we can hopefully help identify opportunities to build and maybe even lift in place curriculums that would work in other areas where they feed these needs. So really appreciate your time. Any public comment on this item? I don't know where Emily is. There she is, way in the background. All right, thank you so much. And that wraps up this segment of the Capital Region Report. I will then ask.
Everything, Caitlin, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your patience over there, Adele. But I'd like to have the opportunity to introduce Adele Burns. And I don't know what your title is because it changed again fairly recently. But she basically is the Division of Apprenticeship Standards.
I am one woman. It's the Division of Apprenticeship Standards. Hi, everyone. It is lovely to be here with you all. So I am the chief at the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, and yeah, indeed, things have changed, and I am also very happy to be joined here by a key new team member, Jamie Mather. You can wave. He is started on Monday, so give him a minute. But he's the new assistant chief over apprenticeship operations, and for any of you who overlap with the CAC world, the California Apprenticeship Council, and our building trades apprenticeships. Jamie's going to be a really key new person for you. And also joining us online is Caleb Van Docto, who is the new deputy chief focused on apprenticeship expansion. So if you're interested in apprenticeship outside of the building trades, he's going to be another key person. So Kanya is totally correct that things have been changing a little bit at DAS. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all and to provide some apprenticeship updates. And I think hopefully, and it was fun to hear the other presentations today to hear about some of the cool apprenticeship programs happening in this region in particular. But apprenticeship expansion has been a really key strategy statewide, and certainly a focus of our governor right now to try to serve over 500,000 apprentices, which is very ambitious. And we're excited to be making significant progress on that. And so I'm going to provide you a few key updates on some of the funding around apprenticeship and kind of some of the trends that I'm seeing in funding. But I will say over the past few years, there's been a lot of really significant investments into apprenticeship. And with that comes some like experimentation with funding, including in how apprenticeships and workforce development boards work together. So I want to share a few insights from that with you all, and very much welcome like the input and discussion on how we can continue to build upon what we've learned, because certainly one of my focuses as chief at the Division of Apprenticeship Standards is to really build out a high quality and equitable apprenticeship system in California. And I see the interplay between workforce boards and apprenticeship as a really key way that we ensure that the equity part of that, right? That the folks who need a little bit of extra help to get into a career that so much of your system that you all oversee are serving, get access to these earn and learn opportunities that are apprenticeships. So With that, I'll dive in a little bit on some of the funding updates. You can go to the next slide. So one of the things I wanted to be sure to tell you about is the apprenticeship innovation funding. So this is one of the sort of more experimental areas of funding that you've been playing around with over the past few years that is really introducing a formula funding model to trying to scale, we call it IACA apprenticeships, which is the interagency advisory committee on apprenticeships, which is really focusing on all of the apprenticeship expansion outside of the building and fire trades. So in healthcare, in advanced manufacturing, as we just heard an example of like a mechatronics apprenticeship, that falls under the category of IACA apprenticeships. And so there's been an investment of about $95 million over the past few years into AIF funding. And we currently have applications open right now, which is one of the reasons I wanted to be sure to share this here, for round 4 of the AIF funding. And really the whole purpose of this funding is to try to be formula funding to expand apprenticeships. So if you go to the next slide, just a little overview of the structure of this funding. The idea of this funding is to try to support the entities that are stepping up to really run an apprenticeship program. And that is sometimes a workforce board that is playing that role of what we in apprenticeship land call the program sponsor. So a program sponsor is the entity that is bringing together the needs of employers, bringing together the educators, bringing together sometimes the workforce boards or different community-based organizations to recruit, support, and place apprentices through their apprenticeship journey. So the AIF funding funds $3,500 per active apprentice per year, prorated to the month, along with $1,000 completion bonus, because we really want to see these apprentices completing. So therefore, we are formula funding that. And then we also have training funding, which there's a few different ways that we pay for offset the cost of training apprentices in California, including in partnership with our community college chancellor's office on what's called related and supplemental instruction funding, RSI funding, some of you might be aware of. So this is actually benchmarked, that dollar amount is benchmarked, so it's $10.32 per training hour. And it's a little bit of an either or. So if you get the RSI funding through the chancellor's office, you wouldn't get this AIF funding, but it's a way to try to create more flexible funding models for some of these new apprenticeships that are emerging. So just a note that the round 4 is currently open and the deadline to apply is coming up quickly. So it's April 17th. So if you are already involved in one of these apprenticeship programs, please be sure to put this on their radar. One other thing I will say, we've been looking at sort of the high level impacts, if we go to the slide, of AIF over 3 years. You know, this was a new funding source trying to expand apprenticeship through this formula funding approach. And it has proven really, really effective. We've served over 29,000 apprentices over the 3 rounds of funding that have already gone out to programs. And that's funded 86 different apprenticeship programs. And that's that average compensation on that is $51 per hour, which is pretty incredible. And overall, there's been a 76% increase in new IACA apprenticeship program registrations over that time. So it's working, which is phenomenal. And it's, I really see it, this formula approach to funding, which you all in the WIOA world know formula funding well. I think when we incentivize the outcome that we're looking for, we see results. And I think we're really seeing that in the case of AIF. But I will say its future is uncertain here in California. So this was an experiment of funding. Right now, round 4 may be the last round of funding. So certainly it's something that I think we should consider how we as a state might continue this kind of formula funding, because I think it's having the intended impact. Now, I will just note that at the federal level, they've been paying attention to how tremendously we've been growing apprenticeships here in California, and they have mimicked our pay for success formula funding at the federal level. You know, you're doing something right now, and the federal government adopts California policy. So, so the DOL is adopting this. It is it's sort of in process of rolling out right now. But it's $45 million for the whole country. And it's like not hard to do the math. Like we are funding about $20 to $30 million just here in California. So that $45 million nationwide is not going to go very far. So I think that if we want to see this sort of sustained growth, we do need to continue to invest into it. If you go to the next slide, so I've talked a lot about sort of the expansion of apprenticeship outside of the building trades, but a lot of, honestly, the inspiration for AIF came from the very robust system of what's called the California Apprenticeship Council training funds, which have been in place for a number of years and is a key way that building trades apprenticeships are funded in California. And it is also annual formula funding that goes out to all of the building trades programs that are providing skilled and trained workers to our public works funded jobs out across California. And so we've had a pretty significant increase in that funding in this year. We increased that from $3 million annually to $20 million annually. And we're very soon to announce those recipients of the 2025 round of funding. And this is really allowing our construction trades programs to increase capacity, fund, equipment, training, recruitment, updating curriculum, and most importantly, training apprentices is really ultimately what this funding is doing. So these are sort of two really critical formula funding ways that we're expanding apprenticeship in California across all industries. So if you go to the next slide, one thing I will say, we have one experiment in funding that we have done during my tenure at DAS is we got a DOL grant a number of years ago in collaboration with EDD's Workforce Services branch to really experiment around the expansion of apprenticeship in collaboration with workforce boards. So one of the requirements for that was, it was called the SAEEI grant. And it had to be with workforce development boards. And but it was really specifically, so we learned a lot from that. So what I want to share a bit is some of the learnings from that process. And this was some very interesting data that I got in looking at some of the dashboards that you all are probably very aware of. But this was as of 2025. And nationally, the co-enrollment rate between workforce boards, between like WIOA enrollment and enrollment in apprenticeship, nationally, the average is 0.6%. So that is not a math error. It is not 60%. It is 0.6% of WIOA participants are enrolled in apprenticeships. So not very high. I will say in the SAEEI grant that we did, we really set out to try to go for 100% co-enrollment. We ended up with 7% co-enrollment, which at the time I didn't feel great about. I kind of felt like, oh, we're not like really getting the WIOA eligible folks into apprenticeship, but actually it turns out 7% is phenomenal. So this gives you a little bit of a snapshot of some of the California workforce development boards that are above the national average of 0.6% in that co-enrollment data point. So I know we got South Bay WIB on the call here, so certainly get to give them a shout out with the 4.58% co-enrollment. And certainly San Francisco has done a really robust apprenticeship program they call Tech SF, where they've partnered with tech employers in the San Francisco and Bay Area. There's been a lot of work with the San Diego Workforce Partnership, specifically around like pre-apprenticeship programs that lead to construction apprenticeships. So anyways, I certainly want to call out and celebrate these California workforce development boards that are above average in terms of that co-enrollment. If you go to the next slide. So some of the learnings we got from both doing the SAEEI grant, but also over the years of just DAS collaborating with you all, with Kaina, with Adam, with different folks in the workforce board system, in terms of what are the optimal integration between apprenticeship and workforce. And of course, we're talking about this in California, but there's also a national conversation about this. And I would say it is really, really important that we all try to intentionally build pathways for WIOA eligible participants to get into apprenticeships. So that's a very broad statement, right? So there's a lot of how in that I want to reflect on here. And I will say, I think that an ideal role for a workforce board in apprenticeship is to really be focusing on that. And so that could mean that you're a key sourcing pipeline of talent to apprenticeship programs that are in your region. That might mean that you actually set up a pre-apprenticeship program, right? Which is essentially a training program that prepares somebody, gives them those initial skills to get into an apprenticeship program. You obviously all represent providing supportive services to WIOA eligible apprentices. I will say one of the things that's been sometimes a tension between apprenticeship and workforce boards is that an apprenticeship is ultimately meeting the needs of employers, right? It's an employer who decides, I want to hire this apprentice, because an apprentice is an employee, right? They're working and learning, right? But that person may or may not be WIOA eligible, right? And an employer isn't going to select somebody based on their WIOA eligibility, right? And so I think that tension has been tricky to navigate as we try to, we've been rah-rah encouraging, workforce boards should be doing more apprenticeship, but like, what does that really mean? But when workforce boards partner with programs, they can provide supportive services, can provide sometimes wage augmentation to certain categories of individuals, and can also, I think most importantly, be a sourcing partner. So providing WIOA, helping WIOA eligible folks be aware of the apprenticeship programs in their region. What I would say we should not necessarily do is we should not necessarily say, well, no, we definitely shouldn't say that all apprentices should be co-enrolled. I think that is not a realistic goal for the reason I just said. Like, employers don't pick people based on WIOA eligibility. They pick people based on who they want to hire and develop the talent. So at one point nationally, there was a conversation of like, oh, all apprentices should go through the WIOA system. And I think we're backing off of that in a collective learning process, which is good. And I think it is possible for workforce boards to be that primary program sponsor, but it's not, I don't think it's always optimal because of that tension. And so therefore putting out funding opportunities like we did 5 years ago, saying that only workforce boards can, you have to have a workforce board being the program sponsor, was not necessarily the greatest idea. I think that they should be an eligible entity if they are one of those boards that's stepping up to do that, but it shouldn't necessarily be a requirement. So those are just some high level learnings. And if you go to the next slide, so what I've been doing in collaboration with some of the partners here is really thinking through how can we kind of support workforce boards in being informed and active and engaged partners in building that talent pipeline to apprenticeship. And I think that there's a lot of different ways to do this. So if we go to the next slide, which is it's heavy, but it's dive in with me for a moment. Essentially, what I'm presenting here is an initial idea and framework as to kind of the different levels of engagement a workforce board might have with apprenticeship. And the first level is really just awareness. And this is really trying to make sure that your workforce board understands the basics of what is an apprenticeship, right? Like the frontline staff that are supporting WIOA eligible folks. Do they have the tools to help somebody find a pre-apprenticeship or an apprenticeship program? Or do they even know what an apprenticeship is, right? So I think that's been getting better and better, but I think the awareness piece and having those tools at their fingertips to be supporting folks that they're serving is really important. And also a component of that is knowing what are the programs locally to you, right? Where could you be directing folks to get into an apprenticeship program? So that's kind of the first level. A second level is playing the role of connector, right? So a workforce board, the frontline staff are really intentionally connecting folks with apprenticeship programs, which means they know the programs locally. Maybe they know the apprenticeship coordinator that runs the local carpenters program, or that runs the local mechatronics program, or that runs the, you know, community college-based early care and education apprenticeship program. And they're actually like actively introducing folks to those programs and really like developing that pipeline of candidates. And maybe there's, you know, maybe they go and join the meetings of the apprenticeship committee so that they're really aware of when those application windows open up and are helping get those WIOA eligible folks into those programs. The next level would be to actually offer a pre-apprenticeship program, and San Diego Workforce Partnership, I will name as one of those groups that is doing this. I think there's a bunch of workforce boards across the state that are doing this, that are running a training program that is a pre-apprenticeship, which means that it's a training program that has an MOU with an apprenticeship program, and that they are actually training folks to very intentionally have those skill sets to get into the apprenticeship. I would love for all 46 workforce boards in California, how many?
45.
45, so close. To get at least to the pre-apprenticeship level of engagement with apprenticeship. Like that would be awesome. And I couldn't tell you right now how many are in what sort of category here, which could be a project that I've been talking to different folks about how we might do that. So, but at least having a pre-apprenticeship, the next level would be to actually be a partner with a registered apprenticeship program. So maybe even like being on the apprenticeship committee, and that would be, and in that case, it would be really providing the WIOA support infrastructure around the eligible individuals in the apprenticeship program, right? So that might be wage augmentation, different supportive services that person might be eligible for. So I think in a beautiful world, all 45 workforce boards would actually be partnered with their local apprenticeship program. Like that would be wow, amazing. And then the last level is to actually be the program sponsor. And I think that sometimes, and I'll own DAS's guiltiness in this, sometimes we've been a little too rah-rah about like, every workforce board should be a program sponsor. And I don't think that always makes sense. Sometimes it does. And I think South Bay WIB and Tech SF are two great examples where that is happening, where they are running the whole apprenticeship program. But they even organizationally have had to get creative structurally as to how to be able to do that. So that is a little bit of the framework. If you go to the next slide. So again, I would say the objective that I would put out there, and this is like very new and I very much welcome like input and comments on this, is how can we try to get as many workforce boards as possible up to the level of either pre-apprenticeship or being a partner in an apprenticeship program, while certainly allowing for the possibility that workforce boards could actually become the sponsor, but not necessarily leading with that, which I think in the past we've sometimes been guilty of like leading with that. So the last thing that I'll leave you with is just a very practical set of resources in the next slide. So to those of you supporting the frontline staff in some way, step one of this is making sure that your frontline staff at all of your workforce boards and American Job Centers have these two links linked on their like bookmark page and are providing them to as many people they're supporting as possible. We have the DAS apprenticeship search tool, which is to look up apprenticeship programs in the state of California, and then the DOL apprenticeship search tool, which is to look up apprenticeship programs nationally. So if you come away with nothing else, please take that to your teams to make sure that they have that bookmarked and available for. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, are there any questions from the panel or any of our satellite locations?
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
And this is to piggyback off of what Adele had just mentioned in that last takeaway. But when you're bookmarking those components of it, try to utilize existing standards in the system. Let's not try to recreate the wheel when you're looking at developing those opportunities and those pathways. There's a lot in there that accelerate the development process.
Absolutely. And those of you in the room who are employers, there may already be a registered program that you could just sign up to. And so that's another thing you could use that lookup tool for, is to be able to see what occupations are already registered and that you've got to sign up to. Okay. Let's see, we have a
hand in South Bay.
Yeah, hi, everybody. It's Larry, Frank. So construction apprenticeship is absolutely the gold standard in apprenticeship for multiple reasons. But I just think that, all of the workforce boards and all of our AJCCs, workforce centers, et cetera, should know the list of the pre-apprenticeship programs, and they're often identified as they have the multi-core craft curriculum, MC3s are what they're referred to. And that is the way in to most union apprenticeship opportunities in the state. You have to come through pre-apprenticeship. A lot of the building trades, themselves have staff that actually work to connect people up to the MC3s and kind of oversee the MC3s to a certain extent. But it is definitely worth us doing a little bit of training with all of our, AJCCs to explain exactly how people get in to what is the gold standard of apprenticeship. I have lots of other questions about the other innovative apprenticeship programs, but I don't want to bore people with it. But it really is a huge question for me as to how many of the innovative apprenticeship programs survive after the funding is gone, right? And it's a really pertinent question, an interesting question, but I'd love to know the answer to it at some point, down the road.
Well, we'll get you connected with Ms. Burns so you can ask those questions directly.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's exactly what AIF is intending to address, is just that, because the building trades have set up a really robust ongoing system of funding. And I think that on the expansion side, that similar infrastructure is needed if we want to keep the momentum that we've gotten going, whether it be through California Apprenticeship Initiative grants or whether it be through HRTP grants. There's been lots of different grants that have led to the creation of apprenticeship programs, but how do they sustain and scale over time? So I appreciate you bringing up the point. I think it's really critical.
Yeah, and especially apprenticeship programs that have like a single employer that are probably telegraphed that when the money is gone, there won't be there later. But yeah, you're right. The building trades have a huge, robust contribution for every dollar that is spent into apprenticeship. And it's very hard to do that industry-wide in other industries. But those where it's successful, and really interested in understanding the lessons of those innovative strategies that do survive the transition. It's a really great research environment for those of us that care about this work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please. First, thank you, Leonard Gonzalez, Laborers Training Center. St. Burns, good to see you. I just want to thank you and commend you for all your leadership and also all of your staff and your support. I can say as probably one of the largest construction programs in the state, with leadership and also with the additional funding available to our programming. We serve approximately, we have about 4,000 active apprentices. We onboard close to 22 to 2,500 a year. And so those resources definitely help. The program that she's made available, that she's referred to, I can speak directly firsthand as far as how that not only impacts the community for pre-apprenticeship, but also complements the work that we do as a board. Kind of thank you, did the tour over in Monterey, or excuse me, Castroville with one of the programs. And you can see how the two programming and resources actually collaborate and work together with not just the laborers, but also the building trades and all craft, creating those pipelines for individuals that may not have access to those opportunities. I think you would be surprised. I represent 46 Northern California counties. We're active in a lot of those areas. And I think you'd be surprised at the relationships that already exist between workforce boards and programming. I think it's just a matter of putting together signing the formal paperwork, to register them with the PAP EAS programming. So I'm happy to assist in any way that you guys need. can facilitate some of those. But thank you so much for your presentation today.
Great. At this time, Emily, is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Burns. Really appreciate that. And in the interest of time, I know a number of our members have to run pretty quickly. And so I'm going to skip the first three updates areas and go to Hillary Lantini in South Bay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll keep it brief, but then I have a question at the end too. So the March 11 and 12 SRC discussed the following topics: fair hearings and mediations, delays in paying vendors, effects of the government shutdowns, language access policy, a course for SSI and SSDI beneficiaries called Independence 101 that teaches them essential information about their benefits and work incentives from the Social Security Administration. The SRC also continued strategizing about how to shorten the meetings and use meeting time productively, increase engagement on committees, and revitalize inactive committees. And lastly, the SRC passed a recommendation asking DOR to leave Category 1 and Category 2 open when DOR implements an order of selection. And then my question is, it's necessary for these updates and SRC reports to be entered into the minutes in full. And I think that could be easily accomplished just with a link like you do for the public comments documents. And so I'm hoping that that can be rectified, starting with these minutes for this meeting.
Yes, and we'll follow up with you directly to get that clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cordova.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I'll be quick as well. Just wanted to give a quick update. There are, as Adele mentioned, there are going to be some funding that's going to be coming out here shortly, specifically around the California Apprenticeship and Innovation Grant. Those dollars are going to be, or the RFA is going to be released here shortly, as well as the adult education ELL funding to help support the pathways into healthcare. That round 3 is going to be released, or I think it might have actually been released in the process. We're continuing to give a quick update on some of the ETPL aspect of work. We did do a successful pilot for the reporting component of it. We continue to make some minor technical adjustments to be able to make sure that we get that going, as well as trying to still encourage all of our California community colleges to upload their programs into the portal so that way we can make sure that they're all there. The hard part is keeping them on the portal, right? But we're going to try to work at ways of identifying that to get them all up on that process. And then last but not least, one of the things that we're focusing on right now is strengthening careers. So SCC6 grant has been released and we are pursuing the application process under that grant. It's the core principles and the priorities of this funding is one, scaling high quality short-term workforce programs. And I'm not going to go over all the eligibility requirements for the programs, but we're still waiting on federal release of the definition of the requirements itself, but that's supposed to be coming out by July. The second one is a stronger employer partnership. As I mentioned earlier, I get really excited because I hear a lot of the that's really the emphasis of what we've been focusing our work around, as well as the integration of the workforce and the data systems. That's our 3 priorities that we're going to be looking into for the specific strengthening careers. I might approach the board for like letters or stuff like that. So all of those mechanisms, it helps strengthen the application. And it's up to $10.8 million. So it's not a lot of money, but it's an opportunity for us to really showcase that we are putting our best foot forward to develop the short-term workforce Pell eligible programs and really getting them into the ETPL.
Great, thank you, Tony. And now Ms. Parsons, if you will.
So for the Department of Education, we are updating our CTE model curriculum standards. Right now we have 15 industry sectors and we're moving those into 14 career clusters. We're doing that, we're taking a group into clusters to the board each November. So they've already approved 3 of the 14. And so this November, we'll take another grouping. And then next, we'll take the last grouping in November 2027. We have steering design committees. That's with employers, with educators and state agencies. And I know, Jamie, you just started, but you're a part of our SDC meeting. So thank you so much for
more.
jumping in. So it's a really great project, and again, those will be updated in 2027. Is our CT application season right now? So up first, we have our federal grant, which is our Perkins funding. So we have about $56 million that we'll be allocating to our LEAs to create and expand the CTE programs. Then in April, we'll have our career technical education incentives grant, that will be $450 million. That will be allocated to our LEAs again to enhance, create, and promote and work with employers CTE type programs. And then in May, we'll have our ag incentive grant. So that's about $6 million. And so we'll be selecting LEAs to increase those. And lastly, we're really looking at the trailer bill language right now. There's another investment of $100 million for dual enrollment, and we're hoping that does pass. So we can continue to work with our community colleges and make sure that we provide that access to our students for dual enrollment.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments from the board or even satellite locations?
Quick question, the trailer bill, what was the bill that's attached to?
Well, it's in the trailer bill now, so it's $100 million, $100 million for dual enrollment.
Thank you.
Say yes to that. Say yes to that.
Any other? Emily, is there any public comment on those items? Thank you. Now we are in the portion of the agenda that provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on items of interest within the board's jurisdiction. Comments are limited to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. Pursuant to the Bagley-Keene Act, the board shall take no discussion or action other than a referral on any issue brought here. Are there any general public comments for the board?
No general public.
Are there any general public comments from email or YouTube?
No.
With no additional public comment and no further business, this meeting of the California Workforce Development Board is hereby adjourned. Thank you all for your participation.
Hey.
Almost 3 minutes.